a movie from 40 years ago. It is renowned as a textbook for science fiction movies. It is also the founder of all cyberpunk. To this day, he is still being animated by countless movies. Games and other fields follow suit and pay tribute. At the same time, he is also the favorite of many famous directors, and that includes The Shawshank Redemption as a director, Frank Darabont, Inception director Christopher Nolan, but at the beginning of the movie's release. But because its ideas are too advanced, the meaning of the film is even more obscure, so it caused a double hit at the word-of-mouth box office, until many years later, countless videos, the game works all appear elements of this movie. The audience suddenly realized. Turns out he's the ceiling mid-panel in a sci-fi movie. Speaking of which, familiar friend, you should have guessed the name of this movie. That's right, he's Blade Runner, and this one at the beginning. Many people watch movies that persuade them to quit after a few minutes. What exactly happened? After many years, it was repeatedly blown to the sky. So today, let's take a look at the story of Blade Runner. The story takes place in the future of Los Angeles in 2019. At this time, the technology of the Earth has been extremely developed, but the resources for survival are extremely scarce. The number of humans has plummeted as a result. Most humans have colonized alien planets in order to survive better on an alien planet. And a company called Terry came along. And Terry's main business is making androids, engaged in the development of alien colonies for humanity. A dangerous mission to search for extraterrestrial resources. Bionic humans look like humans, but it is far beyond the average human in one field. To avoid androids, generate independent thoughts and emotions, Terry set them up. Extremely cruel insurance procedures. All androids have a lifespan of only 4 years, and I can only devote my life to work. Middle, it is not allowed to return to Earth without permission until the end of life. If they deliberately resist, or have thoughts of rebellion, will be summarily executed. For this, the police department has also set up a special agent team. Their mission is to find and execute rebellious androids, and this team of agents is Blade Runner, can be strongly oppressed. It's often accompanied by fierce resistance. Under the perennial might of mankind, a pair of androids finally started a revolution. They robbed a space transport ship. After killing all the humans on board, secretly returned to Earth. But here's the surprise, they're not doing anything dangerous. Instead, he disguised himself as an ordinary human in a low-key manner, infiltrated the production base of the Bionic Man, Terry Company. I don't know what their purpose is, but humanity still feels a strong threat. So he sent a Blade Runner to Terry's. Conduct emotion tests on new employees one by one, so-called emotion detection. It's a common technique used by Blade Runner. It can react by heartbeat fear to quickly determine whether the person in front of you is human or a fake android. After layers of testing, they discovered that this man is one of the rebellious androids, but he didn't have time to react. The android pulls out its pistol and starts fighting back, after injuring the agent. The android also escaped. Only then did the police realize, this time the rebellious androids are tougher than ever. Therefore, the director immediately sends someone to find the retired gold agent, and that's Deca. However, now Deca has no intention of participating in this dispute, so he decisively rejected the sheriff's request. But the sheriff suddenly changed his face, and the sharp threat stopped right there. Strange thing is, Deca is afraid of the sheriff's threats, as if he had caught something. In the end, I can only accept this mission reluctantly. Just then, a colleague next to him folded a chicken out of paper on the table. This is also one of the important threads that the film wants to convey. There are actually 3 origami attempts in this movie. I'll answer them all later in the video. Then the sheriff introduced Deca, bionic profile of this rebellion. They are all brand new 6th generation androids. There are 6 people in total, when 2 of them infiltrated Terry's company, electrocuted by the defense grid, and the bionic that wounded the agent before was named Leon. He's a transport android, powerful, can carry a 400-pound atomic bomb non-stop all night long, and there's no stopping. The remaining 3 are Roy, combat android, launch time 2016, also the leader of this rebellion. Zola the assassin android, agile, a beautiful exterior hides a fierce heart. Price entertainment bionic, average combat effectiveness. The function is to give humans in alien colonies, perform entertainment, and Deca's mission this time is to figure out what their purpose is. Why return to Earth? Then they tried every means to infiltrate the Terry group, and after finding out everything, execute them completely, to prevent accidents from happening. The director suggested that Deca go to Terry's first emotion detection of 6th generation androids, to ensure the availability of existing equipment, still valid for 6th generation androids. Deca was greeted by Rachel, Terry's company secretary. As soon as he met, he asked Deca a question. Interrupt their conversation. It's the president of the company, Dr. Terry. He was interested in mood tests. I want to see it for myself. So he had Deca test Rachel, and this is undoubtedly a test for Deca. Deca, on the other hand, didn't panic at all, promised with confidence. Strangely enough, we can draw conclusions from the past 20 questions. This time, Deca asked more than 100 questions, but still can't tell. Is Rachel in front of you human, or an android? Fortunately, he was quick, asked an extremely tricky question. At this moment, Rachel's pupils finally changed. Then the test instrument actually malfunctioned, but the corners of Deca's mouth rose slightly. He already knew the real answer. At this moment, Terry suddenly spurned Rachel. Deca also got straight to the point. Rachel is the android. But what Terry said next shocked Deca, because Rachel doesn't even know she's a bionic. Turns out Terry's always wanted complete control of the android, reduce their chances of rebellion. So he resorted to a method of memory implantation, because only by making the androids think they are human, to fundamentally solve the problem of their resistance. And Rachel was the first. Subject Harry took a girl's memory, implanted into Rachel's brain, let him have childhood memories. So in his understanding, he's not some android that was invented, but real human beings who have lived for more than 10 years. This test makes Deca's emotions very complicated. If androids had humanity, then their arbitrary execution, it will be no different from killing ordinary humans. This thing, and forever changed Deca's life. However, this also verifies that emotion detection still works for 6th generation androids. Then Deca set off again. Search for the 4 androids on the run. Soon after, Deca traced the residence of the bionic Leon. It was a rundown little hotel, and when they got there, they were all empty. It's dark and messy inside. It looks like no one's lived there for a long time. The only clue was a few photos, and a scale like a fish scale. And just as Deca was leaving, the accompanying police officers started to work again. The other side, the leader of the androids, Roy, has finally appeared. He realized that his time was running out. The long-planned plan must be carried out immediately. He's teaming up with Leon. Come to the eyeball production base of the bionic human, because it is necessary to ensure the freshness of the eyeballs. The temperature here is extremely low. It's like a giant freezer. They ripped off the designer insulation, exposed him to temperatures of minus tens of degrees, then tell them all about their purpose of returning to Earth. Turns out their plan is to break the set life limit, to have the same lifespan as humans. The designer in front of you, they had no idea how they were going to modify it, because of the eyeball design. It's just the simplest part for the android to make. There's no life expectancy at all. However, the designer revealed another person. That's Sebastian, the genetic designer. Maybe find him. You can know how to modify the lifespan. The perspective returns to D again. Card here, he just got the scales and photo. I'm going to go home and study it carefully, but in the elevator on the way home, but found a person hiding in the corner. And this is Rachel. After that test, Rachel also has doubts about her identity, so he found Deca. I took out photos of my childhood, trying desperately to prove that he is not a bionic, but I didn't wait for Rachel to speak. Deca said it first. Rachel's reluctant childhood memory. Rachel never mentioned this memory to anyone, and the reason why Deca understands this memory, because these memories are all someone else's. It was just implanted in Rachel's brain by Terry, and Terry told Deca all those memories. So this also confirms that Rachel is indeed a bionic human. After learning that he is a bionic human, Rachel stood there sadly. He tried to keep his composure. Tears can't stop flowing. See Rachel in front of you. Deca can't help but feel pity. I wanted for a glass of wine to comfort her wounded heart, but when he turned around, he found that Rachel had long been missing. Also took that fake childhood photo, discarded on the ground. Deca can only look at that photo while drinking. Unknowingly fell asleep. And this time, and he had that dream that he used to have. A silver unicorn appeared in the dream, running through the smoky forest. And this dream is also electric. A very important foreshadowing in the shadow. Deca didn't think much of it when he woke up. The previous photos were immediately analyzed. In the photo, Deca not only saw Leon lying asleep, also found a woman in the mirror of the photo. He has a snake tattoo on his face. They have the same scales. This also convinced Deca. Just follow the scales and investigate. We're sure to find those hidden androids. Then he tested the genes of the scales. The person who tested told him, these are not fish scales. It's the scales of an artificial snake. Then Deca followed the trail to a bar. There is a performance of beautiful women and snakes going on here. And Zora, the assassin-like bionic, is one of the performers. There were many snake scales on him. Deca lied about being a talent scout for a variety show, trying to get close to Zora, but the seemingly calm Zora. In fact, I have already seen through Deca's identity. He took advantage of Deca. A hand knife attacked Deca, then run away quickly. But anyway, Deca is also a battle-hardened agent. Soon in the hustle and bustle of the crowd, captured Zora's figure. Then he took out his pistol, killed Zola on the spot. However, what puzzled Deca was, before Zora died, a drop of unwilling tears actually flowed out of the corner of his eye. And again, Deca had mixed feelings. He also began to realize, bionic humans are not cold tools. They have flesh and blood like humans. You have these elusive emotions. And then the police chief suddenly appeared. He told Deca that there were 4 more witnesses to be executed. Deca has no idea. Shouldn't 4 to 1 be equal to 3? But the director at this time gave the answer. Because Rachel, who is also a bionic human, out of Terry's management, now gone missing. So Rachel was also included in the execution. This also instantly made Deca fall into deep thought, because Rachel didn't do anything. Things that are bad for humanity. It was then that Deca happened to see Rachel hiding in the crowd. He was about to go after him, but was caught by the bionic Leon. Leon has just witnessed Zora's tragic death. Now he wants to avenge Zora. Leo is powerful. Deca has nothing to gain from it. Deca was about to be killed by Leon. When it was critical, Lion was shot in the head, and it was Rachel who saved Deca. To express gratitude, Deca bought Rachel a drink. At this time, Rachel was trembling with fear. Deca thought Rachel was scared because of the murder. It doesn't. The reason he was really afraid. It's Blade Runner D in front of you, because he's now a bionic on the run, so it is very likely that he will die at the hands of Deca. Hear Rachel's answer. Deca silently cleaned the wound. Then Rachel got up the nerve and asked Deca a question. Then Rachel asked Deca, did he ever do a mood test on himself? But this question did not get a response from Deca. Rachel walked over in confusion, but found that Deca was still talking just now. At this moment, he suddenly fell asleep on the sofa. Rachel didn't wake Deca. He walked over to Deca's piano. On the piano, placed some objects about Deca's childhood. One of them is a chicken ornament. This is echoing the chicken that my colleague was worth before. And by the end, you'll understand what that means. Back to Rachel. She let her hair loose, played a piano piece, but now Deca. But suddenly woke up. Then in this inexplicable ambiguity, spent a beautiful night. And the mage's side, Leon and Zora died one after another. The 4th mage, Price, finally appeared. He disguised himself as a homeless teenage girl, made a chance encounter with genetic designer Sebastian. Sebastian was moved by Price's pitifulness. Without a doubt, he brought him into his palace. In Nuwa Da's apartment, only Sebastian lives alone. The remaining inhabitants have all emigrated to aliens. Sebastian, suffering from a rapidly aging disease, it makes him look like a 52-year-old at 25. Therefore, he also failed the medical examination. Can only live on Earth. To relieve loneliness, he made a lot of inferior dwarfs for company. It also made life less boring in Sebastian. He kept talking to Price about his life, and what he doesn't know is, he is about to pay for the kindness he just did, pay a heavy price. Sure enough, and the next day, Price took Roy to his apartment. At this point, Sebastian realized that something was wrong. The two forced Sebastian. Describe ways to change your lifespan. Unfortunately, Sebastian also doesn't have permission to modify the lifespan. The only person with permission to modify, it's Dr. Terry, the president of Terry's company. Fortunately, Sebastian has enough access to meet Terry, so Roy threatened Sebastian. The two went to Terry's headquarters again, and here's what we didn't expect. Terry wasn't surprised to see Roy. On the contrary, he bluntly said that he came later than expected, and Roy basically forces Terry to extend their lives. But Terry said, once life programs are set, they cannot be modified. If forced modification, the androids will die instantly. Hearing these words, Roy is very disappointed, but now Terry suddenly comforted Roy. But this statement angered Roy, and he hated anyone who would define an android at will. And Terry once again put the flesh and blood android, described as a great work, but did not consider the pain of the bionic man. This also made Roy extremely angry, and he smashed Terry's head to pieces, killed his beloved father, and after that, Sebastian didn't escape Roy's clutches either. Now Deca receives the news that Terry is dead. He came to Sebastian's apartment, hunt down the two remaining androids, and this also happened to fall into the trap of Roy and Price. At this moment, Price is disguised as a puppet, waiting for Deca to arrive, and while Deca was admiring how realistic the dolls were, but was ambushed by Price, whereas Price is just an entertainment robot. There is no combat sequence. This also led him to fight. You just keep doing somersaults. When he was shot, Price kept rolling on the floor. The convulsions also become extremely eerie and cryptic. After a brief moment of consternation, Deca ended Price's life with a single shot, and Roy just happened to return to the apartment at this time, after seeing Price's death, and Roy got really angry, so began the revenge against Deca. Since Roy is a combat android, Deca is no match for Roy at all. Not only was Roy fooled around, he also broke 3 fingers. Deca also felt the gap between himself and Roy. At this point, the identities of both parties have also changed. Deca starts running away from Roy's hunt. In the process of hunting down Deca, and Roy felt that his time was coming. The right hand becomes numb, so he pulled up a steel nail, forcibly plunged into his palm, in order to regain consciousness. It's also a struggle for the end of life. Under the pursuit of Roy, Deca was forced step by step to the roof of the apartment. You can see the abyss ahead. Deca can only jump to the roof opposite, but because the distance is too far, hanging on the edge of the roof, and Roy just scoots across the roof, despising the crumbling Deca, showing a winner's smile, just as Deca was about to fall, and Roy accidentally saves Deca. Then I said that famous line, the voice just fell. Roy also lost his life completely. However, Deca, who completed the task, did not have the slightest sense of achievement. Instead, my heart is filled with indescribable shame and sadness. He was struck by Roy's understanding of life, deeply shocked, Roy at the moment, and more emotional than real humans. Then a sudden cry woke Deca up. It's that police colleague. He threw it at me with Deca's gun. Before leaving, he left a sentence, it's too bad. Only then did Deca realize Rachel is also on the verge of crisis, so he hurried back home. Fortunately, Rachel just fell asleep quietly, so Deca made a bold decision. He's going to take Rachel away, leave Los Angeles, which is full of malice towards androids, and before leaving, Deca again from the hallway floor saw an origami. It was the silver unicorn that often appeared in his dreams, so the whole article ends.